All right, let's go ahead and start with problem number 1. We want to solve, it's a system of equations. It looks like we have x solved for, so I'm going to use substitution and take that and substitute it in where I see an x. And I'm going to be left with negative 3y plus 15. And then I still have that plus y equals 6. Combine like terms. Negative 2y plus 15 equals 6. And then I'm going to subtract 15 and get negative 2y equals negative 9. And y is going to be 4.5 or 9 over 2. It doesn't matter which one you put. So that tells me half of my answer. That tells me the y coordinate is 4.5. I need to know the x. I'm going to plug it back into actually I'm going to plug it into the bottom one. That one looks pretty easy too. So x plus 4.5 equals 6. I'm just going to subtract 4.5 and I'm going to get 1.5. And that's going to be my final answer. All right, number 2. I'm going to actually start with this bottom equation because 4x equals 12, that only has one variable. I'm going to divide by 4 and get x equals 3. Well, that tells me my x coordinate. I need to know my y coordinate. I'm going to plug it back into the top one. 3y plus 3 equals 11. Subtract 3 from both sides. And I'm going to get a fraction on this, and that's okay. Divide by 3. Y is 8/3. Number 3. Another system of equations. This time, though, there's 3 of them. And on the first one, I'm going to get x equals negative 3. So I've got my x, and I'm always going alphabetical order. I need to know y and z. Well, I look at the equation above it. There's only 2 variables in that one, and one of them I already know. So 2y plus 3 times, I'm sorry, that's a 5. 5 times negative 3 equals negative 29. That's going to give me 2y minus 15 equals negative 29. Add 15 to both sides. 2y equals negative 14. Looks like I'm going to get y is negative 7. Now I need to know z, so I'm going to come up to the very top equation. Well, I know x is negative 3, y is negative 7, and that's going to tell me z. So negative 6 minus 7 is z, which is negative 13. So that is going to be my answer right there. All right, the graph to the right shows the distance from home versus time. So we got time and distance from home. If you leave 60 seconds later, write a new function, g of x. There's not supposed to be a question mark there. And then sketch the graph. Well, this is our function f of x. Our new function, g of x. Well, if we leave 60 seconds later, we're shifting everything to the right 60 seconds. So that's just going to be our old function and do a 60-second shift. And if I were to sketch that, everything is going to the right. Oops, looks like I'm going to run out of room. You have to imagine that plateau's out there. And that's not a great drawing. Looks like I screwed up my slope right here, but let's do that a little bit better. I have an idea. I'm just going to trace that so that it's perfect. Yeah, kind of. And then I'm shifting that function over. Okay, it is going to look a little funny there. And that's what it would look like. And unfortunately, things did get cut off a little. All right, number 5. Given y equals k of x is the parent function, write the equation for f of x if you shift the parent function right 3 units. So I'm going to do that right. I'm going to take the original function, and since it's going right or left, it's paired with the x in the grouping, and right is a minus. All right, describe the transformation. Well, I first noticed the minus sign, so that's a reflect over the x. That plus 4 means that I'm going left 4, and that minus 13 means that I am going down 13. All right, on this one, the absolute value, or the parent function, is just an absolute value function. Well, what I notice is it's being shifted, the vertex is being shifted right 1, up 3, and it's reflected. So the new function is just taking and doing a reflection, shifting it right 1 and up 3. All right. Kaufman went to the local coffee shop. The sign says that a large is $3, and I'm going to call that L, and a medium is $2. Kaufman bought 10. Probably should be saying drinks there, which cost $27 for himself and his co-workers. We want to write a system of equations. Well, he did 10 drinks, so the number of large plus the number of medium drinks is 10. And then a large is $3, so 3L, and the medium is $2, and he spent $27. So there is your equation. It doesn't say to solve it, we're just writing out the equations on this one. Number 9, determine the quadratic function that is obtained from the parent function after a vertical translation 5 down. That's pretty easy. I'm just going to subtract 5, moving everything down 5. All right, so here we need to look at the graph to the right. Right there is my vertex, which is at 2, 4. Oops. The minimum, we don't have a minimum. We have a maximum of the parabola is at that vertex. The y-intercept is at 0. So that's where it's crossing your y-axis. And it looks like the zeros are happening at 0 and 4. A lot of times if they're asking for the maximum too, they might just want the y value. So on that one, we could even say 4. All right, number 14, we want to solve. Well, I don't think I can factor that. So I'm going to go straight to the quadratic formula, and that is opposite b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and that's going to give me -3 plus or minus. We need to evaluate the radical. That's 9 plus 4, 13 over 2. And I can't break down that 13, so I'm just going to circle that as my answer. I'm good. So now I want to solve this one. So I'm going to solve it using square roots. And I get x squared equals negative 64. Take the square root. I notice right away that there's a negative underneath the radical, so I'm thinking I. And the square root of 64 is 8, so plus or minus 8i. How many real solutions? Now we need to look at the discriminant, and the discriminant's what's underneath that radical, which is b squared minus 4ac. So let's see, b squared is 3 squared, or 9. 4ac, that's going to give me 9 minus 36, which is negative 27. That's negative, so I'm going to have 2 imaginary. Again, that 9 was because it was 3 squared. And so my discriminant is negative 27. It's negative, so it's 2 imaginary. All right, factor. This one should be an easy factor because there's no number in front of the x squared. Need to find 2 numbers that multiply to negative 16 and add to negative 15. X minus 16, x plus 1. On 18, 2 numbers that multiply to 5, add to negative 6, x minus 5, x minus 1. Axis of symmetry of a parabola. I'm just going to verbally say that it's the center of the parabola. It cuts the parabola in half. How do you find the axis of symmetry? Opposite b over 2a. All right, simplify. Well, I think I'm going to do a factor tree on that. 70 is 2 times 35. And I am looking at this, and there's nothing that pairs up. 2, 5, 7 are my factors. The only thing I can do is pull out an I with that negative sign. So I'm going to have I radical 70. That's as far as I can go on that one. 21, I'm going to first distribute, and I'm going to get 4i plus 5i minus 2i squared plus 3. Well, I need to remember that I squared is the same thing as negative 1. So negative 2 times negative 1 is actually going to be plus 2. So if I combine my reals, I'm going to get 5, 2 plus 3. Combine my imaginaries, 9i. Factor, I'm going to get x minus 2, x minus 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 0, or is positive 4, and if you add them, it's negative 4. Set that equal to 0, take each factor, which they're the same, so I'm only going to do it one time, and I get x equals 2. And if that had not factored, I would have used the quadratic formula. What is this in standard form? Well, I'm going to have to FOIL. So 18i squared minus 24i plus 3i minus 4. Well, that's really negative 18 right there. So that's going to give me negative 22. Negative 18 minus 4 is negative 22. And then combine my imaginary. Negative 24 plus 3 is negative 21i. I need to solve that one. I'm going to try factoring it first. 2 numbers that multiply to 40, add to, or multiply to negative 40, add to negative 3. Negative 8. Positive 5. Take each factor, set it equal to 0. Know the difference between when it asks you to factor and when it asks you to solve. If it asks you to factor, you're going to have 2 sets of parentheses. I'll write that one a little bit better. If it asks you to solve, you're actually telling me what x equals. That negative not so close to the equal sign there. All right, number 25. This is very similar to one that we had just done, but instead of a plus, we have a minus. I'm just going to add 64 to both sides. And then take the square root, plus or minus 8. There are two answers there, positive 8, negative 8. 26, solve using the quadratic formula. Well, opposite b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That's going to be 81. Negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 plus 2, or times negative 2 is going to give me a plus 16. So I'm going to get negative 9 plus or minus the square root 97 over 4. All right, on this one, I'm just going to distribute that negative sign and then combine my like terms, 7i, negative 7i, they cancel. 4 plus 3 is 7. 28, I need to factor completely. Well, there's a GCF here, so I'm going to pull that out first and get x squared minus 3x minus 4. And then two numbers that multiply to negative 4 add to 3. X minus 4, x plus 1. And there's nothing to solve there because there's no equal sign, and they're asking for it to be factored. All right, 29. A rock is thrown from a 48-foot cliff with an initial upward velocity of 32 feet per second. The function is given right here, represents the height. What is the height of the rocket after 2 seconds? Well, just plug 2 in. Negative 16 times 2 squared plus 32 times 2 plus 48. That's going to give me, you square that and you get 4 times negative 16 is negative 64 plus 64 plus 48. So that is going to give me 48. What is the height when its velocity is 0? Well, if it's not moving, it's on the ground, so its height is 0. A little bit of a trick question. All right, 30. Which equation represents the line that goes through those points? Start by finding your slope, difference of your y's over the difference of your x's. And that's going to be 12 over 1. So my m is 12. And it doesn't matter which point you choose. I'm going to choose that one because there's no negative signs, and I'm going to use point slope. So y minus 8 equals m. And then x minus my x coordinate, x minus 2. Simplify that. Get distributed. Now I'm just going to add 8 to both sides. Y is going to be 12x minus 16. All right, 31. The cost of running a bicycle can be shown by this equation, where m is the number of miles and c is the total cost. Interpret the slope and the y-intercept. the slope right there, 0.4, how much you're paying for each mile ridden. It looks like you're paying 40 cents for each mile ridden. The y-intercept is 2, and that would be your initial cost. How much you have to pay to totally get the mile, to get the bicycle without driving anything, okay? So 2 is your initial cost, and then 40 cents per mile. All right, Bob is saving up for a down payment for a house. She has $500 in her savings accounts and plans to save an additional $100 each week. Which equation best? Well, not which, it'd be right. So started with $500 and then $100 per week. All right. Which equation best represents the line of a slope of 6? Well, they're telling me the y-intercept as well. So I know my m and my b. If that first number is 0, your second number is the y-intercept. So y equals negative 6x minus 2. All right, these are the equations that are going to be given to you. Line, slope-intercept form, a line, point-slope form, the slope formula, standard form of a quadratic, vertex form of a quadratic, intercept form of a quadratic, and the quadratic formula. That b squared minus 4ac is your discriminant, and negative b over 2a is your axis of symmetry. All right, enjoy.